with record high fuel prices at the moment, cars like this make a lot of sense. It's a plug-in hybrid. That means you can plug it in and drive on electric power alone for a set distance without using the petrol or diesel engine at all. And this is the only plug-in hybrid variant of the NX in Australia. It's called the NX 450h Plus, and here I've got the top spec F Sport trim. Now, I've seen reports of lots of people going out and buying plug-in hybrids and EVs to save money, which I think is a little bit stupid. If you're going to save money, there's no need to go out and buy, spend thousands of dollars on a new car. But if you are in the market already to buy a new car and you're after a luxury mid-size SUV, I think the NX has to be right up there with your top three potential to check out, because the prices are pretty good for a premium model. Like if you stack it up against anything from Audi, Mercedes or BMW, you're going to be paying a fair bit more. This is starting to get a little bit old now, and in fact Toyota is about to launch the brand new RAV4, which shares platforms and kind of shares similar dimensions with the NX. The NX is usually a little bit delayed compared with the RAV4. Not delayed, but they release it a bit later on, at least 12 months. So right now this is still current. I wouldn't be worried about missing out on the new model just yet. But yeah, you are able to get this for a lower price than a lot of those rivals. Under the bonnet, you've got a 2.5 litre petrol 4-cylinder engine paired up with an electric motor system feeding from an 18.1 kilowatt hour battery. That, with a full charge, provides a range of 87 kilometres on the NEDC cycle. Basically, that means you could drive this to work every day and maybe charge it a couple of times during the week and not use any petrol at all. But you've got that petrol motor there in case you've got those unexpected trips, you didn't get a chance to charge it up or something like that, or you want to go on a bit of a road trip on the weekend. You don't have to worry about planning your trip with chargers. You can just put petrol in this and drive it like a normal hybrid. Combined power is pretty impressive, 227 kilowatts, making it the most powerful NX currently on sale. But if you stack it up against some rivals with a plug-in hybrid powertrain, yeah, there are more powerful options out there if that's what you want. 0 to 100 claim in 6.3 seconds. Unfortunately, the NX only offers a Type 2 socket, so that's maxing out at 6.6 kilowatts with AC power. So if you've got three-phase power at home, for example, plug it in, it'll take around 4 or 5 hours to charge up, whereas some plug-in hybrids out there offer actually the dual plugs, the CCS2 setup for DC power, so 40, 50 kilowatts. That means you could just duck into a public station, plug it in with DC power, and because the batteries are relatively small in a plug-in hybrid over a full electric model, it's not going to take very long to charge up. You could plug one in for 10, 15 minutes and actually get quite a chunk of range. Whereas this, with just the Type 2 socket, it is sort of showing its age a little bit. But if you've got a plug-in hybrid, you're probably not going to use the public stations at all anyway. You're just going to plug it in at home, maybe once or twice a week, and you can maximize the potential of this system. And then inside, just before we get in actually, this paint is really nice. Lexus paint is usually very good, and this is no different. I mean, it doesn't do it justice here in the shade, but get it in the sun and you can just see it's like a really deep, rich blue with layers, and yeah, looks really, really nice. It does have the electronic buttons. So you've got this big handle, but then there's just this little button behind it. I find it a little bit fiddly. Just have a normal handle. If you're going to go to the effort of having the handle there in the first place, usually you have electronic buttons when you've got those pop-out ones for better aerodynamics, but this is, yeah, it's got the whole handle there anyway, so just give us the normal mechanism. And yeah, check out this interior. Very nice, two-tone theme going on. Got the F Sport seats. They're actually pretty firm, at least for the backrest. They might need some sort of wearing in. The cushion on the bottom is a bit softer. Definitely very comfortable, but just something I've sort of noted compared with other rivals. Nice big side bolsters there to hold you in the corners, and a good driving position as well. You do sit pretty low and the dashboard is quite high, so you're kind of sunken in a little bit. It doesn't have what I would call an upright cabin orientation with tall windows. This does feel a little bit enclosed in. It's got that sporty theme to it. And yeah, like the sort of, well, you can see there, the door card to window ratio, if that makes sense. Like, it's quite narrow there, but then you've got this massive door. Whereas some vehicles, some rivals, like even the Audi Q5, but mainly the BMW X3, it's got more of a 50-50 ratio. So you can see out quite easily, whereas this definitely has that sporty kind of theme to it. Excellent build quality in here though, as you'd expect. Fit and finish is perfect. There's no creaks or rattles. I like the trim, discreet shadow chrome around the cup holders there and around all the buttons and knobs. It is good to see. You've got an actual volume button there. Cool little drive mode toggle. It's got this kind of damped feel to it. And you've got a wireless charger, multiple charging options there as well, and a nice big center armrest with soft leather over the top. Actually got this multi-layer system going on. Feels very nice, good attention to detail, and it's got a side hinged lid, which does take some getting used to compared with a normal, flip up lid. But I think it is maybe a little bit more practical for a passenger because they can just sort of flip it up from their side as well. It's a handle on both sides. And up at the back, we've got a center folding armrest, cup holders, climate vents, and all of the amenities that you need, multiple charging options, and space in the back. It's not class leading. It's fine, or for me at least, 170 centimeters. My head's nowhere near the ceiling, but there are options in this specific class that offer more room if that's a high priority. It does have that kind of enclosed feeling a little bit as well. I won't shut the door because it will probably be too dark. But yeah, it does feel a little bit like a coupe, or slightly like a coupe compared with a conventional upright station wagon. But yeah, as I said, my head's nowhere near the ceiling, and I've got good leg room in my seating position. That's actually the seat has rolled back, so it's got the what do you call it, comfort access system where you turn the vehicle off and the seat will roll back automatically to help you or allow you to get out easier. You can turn that off as well. That is actually in the furthest back setting. So even if I was a bit taller, you've got enough clearance there. It's just a little bit more confined compared with some rivals. And likewise, up at the back, this has the same boot space as the regular hybrid actually. But yeah, 520 litres is okay for this class. But when you fold down the rear seats, it's got just over 1100 litres, which doesn't stack up that well against many of the rivals that offer 1500, 1600 litres. And underneath here, you've got space for the charging cables. That does mean, unfortunately, a tyre repair kit rather than a space saver spare or full-size spare, as with pretty much all plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles on the market, unfortunately. It would be good if they could fit spare wheels, I think, especially in family cars like this that you might do some touring or some traveling in it. You really do want, or it's better to have a full-size spare as the top priority, but at least a space saver, you can get out of trouble. Whereas tyre repair kit, if you do certain damage to the tyre, there are circumstances where a repair kit won't work. Where swapping it with at least something like a space saver can at least get you out of harm's way. All right, let's go for a drive and see how it goes, see how it handles. This weighs just over 2 tons, which is actually not too bad for plug-in hybrid and not too bad for modern standards. So some diesel or petrol SUVs in the luxury mid-size SUV class actually weigh about 2 tons as well. So this, with a big heavy battery, well, not that big, but big for a normal petrol vehicle, on board and still only weighing 2 tons, it's actually pretty good. You'll have to excuse me for this test drive, sorry. I just discovered that I didn't bring my head strap or head mount for the GoPro. So I've just got this standard suction cap mount. What I'll do is I'll put it on the sunroof and face it forward and then use my microphone so you can hear me clearly. Hopefully that provides a similar kind of experience as my usual POV test drives. But yeah, I checked my bags this morning. I was sure I had everything, but I think I put it in a different bag or something for some silly reason. Anyway, sorry about that. We'll just start out in the normal drive mode, and I'll put it in the hybrid for the powertrain. So you've actually got Force EV mode as well as Auto EV mode, and then you can force hybrid mode as well. I know that sounds complicated, but basically you can tell it, hey, I don't want to use all my electric power right now. I'd rather just use a bit of hybrid power, so a combination of electric and petrol. I've been driving in this hybrid mode for most of the day actually, and it's only averaging 5.3 litres per 100 kilometres so far, and that has included performance testing. So I think that's very good. A lot of plug-in hybrids out there, once the battery's gone, it starts to chew in a fair bit of the petrol engine. The petrol engine, sorry, uses a fair bit of fuel. Whereas this with the 2.5 litre, it's a pretty decent engine for this size vehicle. It's not the best in terms of power output and so on, considering this is 2 tons, but it's actually not too bad. Whereas some plug-in hybrids, they'll have a tiny little engine, and then yeah, when you need to rely on that only, it's just really struggling and straining, and it actually uses a fair bit of petrol. So this, even if you leave it in hybrid mode, basically, you're going to get very good economy. It's very quiet and smooth, as you'd expect for a Lexus. I think the suspension is a bit sort of sporty as well, but it's not as direct as, and focused as some rivals, especially those from Germany, the performance variants anyway, or the sporty variants. But this does pretty good. It's a balance between comfort and a bit of kind of athletic enthusiasm. The steering feels nice, even though it is fully electric. It's providing a good amount of communication, but it's also very smooth. Like, I know most steering systems are smooth, but there's something about this. It glides along the road rather than just a steering system. Hard to explain, but take one for a test drive and you'll kind of know what I mean. It just really glides around like it's floating on water almost. Traction from these tires is not the absolute best in my opinion. Like, it skips a little bit in the under heavy braking, and the ABS seems to come on a bit prematurely. Like, it will let go of the brakes for a second and I'll try and show you that actually. And it's sort of, that wasn't fully jamming the brakes, but it was just pushing them hard, and you can hear the motor trying to limit the lockup, but it shouldn't really be locking up anyway. I'm just hitting the brakes nice and firm, but not slamming them. So I feel like, yeah, there's some sort of pitch going on, or mitigating pitch, but then it's as a sacrifice, you're getting a bit of an early ABS happening. It's not a bad thing though. Like, I think for this type of vehicle, this is not a track car. I just think it's worth noting. And we'll push it a little bit going back up the hill. I'll put it into the sport mode. You've got sport and sport plus actually, so we'll try out the sport plus as well. But in normal mode, yeah, this is a very conventional luxury, smooth, relaxing hybrid SUV. As I said, visibility is a little bit confined, but it's actually not too bad out the front. You can see between the mirror and the pillar because of a little quarter window there, and the pillar itself is quite thin, but out the back, yeah, it's a little bit more confined. This does come with a comprehensive surround view camera system, so you can keep an eye on it in tight parking situations. All right, we'll flick it over into the Sport Plus mode. So Sport and Sport Plus, I'm not really sure if there's a point in having both of them in a vehicle like this. Fair enough if it's a hardcore track car, but just have Sport, there's no need for Sport and Sport Plus, I don't think. Just give it a bit of a push around here. Okay, so that's full power. Nice torque distribution, sorting out where to send the power. Very sure-footed. And it goes really well too, with 227 kilowatts, as you'd expect. It picks up nicely. With the CVT, it's a little bit boring, but you do have the electric boost happening simultaneously. It sort of just boosts you along, so you go a little bit quicker than you might expect, in a good way. It's like, oh, I have got a bit of grunt under my right foot. Going back down, I'll push it a little bit harder. We've got some bumps along these corners as well. We can test out the overall dynamic stability. Down through here, there's a bit of a nasty bump. Chuck it in. A little bit of tyre squeal, as you'd expect. It's hanging on nicely though. Change directions, not too bad. Flick it in, full power. Yeah, excellent torque distribution, so it's getting on top of where to send the power. It's not just push understeer or front wheel drive kind of feeling. It does feel like it is all wheel drive. I mean, in terms of the power delivery, a bit of a chirp from the front tyre then. Yeah, it's really nice. It's a surprising performance model in that it's not pretending to be a hardcore performance model, but it still goes quite fast. As I said, you've got that surprising electric boost under your right foot as well. So it's a well-rounded, balanced package. Look, it's not the most hardcore performance model, and it never said it was going to be, but it's just, it feels fast enough. You can easily zip through traffic or overtake on the highway at speed. Like, there's plenty of power in reserve, so you don't have to worry about that. The CVT does kind of ruin the driving experience a little bit, in my opinion. Just the way it's a bit boring. There's no sort of drama to it. It's just the same constant noise, as with any vehicle with a CVT. But again, is this promising to be a performance model or just a kind of performance inspired model that's actually quite quick? Speaking of which, we'll go out now and do the performance test. I haven't actually done a performance test with the Driving Enthusiast channel. The last time I tested the NX 450H was back with the Performance Drive channel. Not that I'm expecting any difference. It's basically exactly the same specifications, so it shouldn't be any different to the previous test if you happen to see that one. Anyway, let's see how it goes. So this is in full EV mode.